I've owned the Steam controller for a little bit over 4 years now, and it has been an incredibly rocky experience. In this video, I want to reflect on my experience with the Steam controller from my first impressions to why I grew to not like it and what I've learned about it over the last couple of years. So with that said, let's go ahead and dive right in. For more great content just like this, just make sure to subscribe and then turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss any uploads. Also leave a like and a comment down below with all of your thoughts on this video. And while you're at it, I always leave affiliate links down below in the description as well. But make sure that you check out Lukrembo so you can find the best deals on all of that tech that you're shopping for. It's a simple browser extension that helps you make the best purchasing decision. And lastly, don't forget to check out my merch store if you're into some monochrome clothing like everything I'm wearing right here. So with that said, links to everything down below. I first bought the Steam controller back in 2016, just shortly after building my very first PC. I didn't own a PS4 or an Xbox One at the time, and I absolutely positively needed to play Naruto Shippuden Ultimate Ninja Storm 4, but I figured I would probably need a controller for that. Since I bought the game on Steam, I mean, it just made sense in my head for me to just get the Steam controller, so I did. And when I got it, the configuration they had for this game was already perfect in my opinion. I thought that the touchpad was really cool in that I can just swipe to switch characters, and while the layout was a little bit odd at first, I did get used to it in due time. I actually really loved this controller for playing Storm 4. And then I tried playing other types of games, and then things started to fall apart for me. At the time, I wasn't aware that the Steam controller even had so much depth to it, and when I tried to customize my controller for other types of games, I quickly realized that this one just wasn't for me. It looked incredibly tedious and intimidating. I mean, look at how many things you can tweak. I didn't even know at the time what more than half of those things even meant. But there were also things like not having community profiles or default profiles for certain games that worked properly enough for me, and those just not working properly depending on the game. It was just a mess in my opinion. And judge me all you want, but playing shooters and 2D fighting games and turn-based games, even etc., was just really awkward with this controller. So I ended up putting it down for a pretty good while. However, this wasn't the last time I touched the Steam controller. Fast forward to 2017, and I was making YouTube videos on this channel, so I wanted to do a comparison video between this controller and a lot of other mainstream controllers. And after going back to this controller for this review, I remembered why I wasn't too keen on it. I also just wanted to do a comparison where there weren't any kind of customizations and just how they perform out of the box. I did receive a lot of backlash from people who were users of the Steam controller when I deemed it the worst of all of the ones I ended up testing. And they were saying things like that I hadn't bothered to customize the controller to really get the most out of it, and that I didn't use gyro for shooters and that sort of thing, and so much more. So I gave it a try, and I ended up giving the controller another chance in its own individual review. And this time, I ended up putting a lot more effort into customizing it and seeing if maybe I was wrong about the Steam controller all along. That it wasn't this cheap feeling controller that is tedious to use and that I can actually master. I even tried using gyro, and I just couldn't get back into it. But I did get through some changes that did improve the overall experience for me, playing a variety of different games, turning on the haptic feedback on the trackpad and just making it tapping instead of like pressing down on the actual D-pad trackpad thing in order to trigger any kind of actions on that. I just got rid of that and I made it just tapping so that I could have faster response times. And doing this did actually improve the gaming experience for me. I did enjoy it a little bit more. However, even then, I couldn't use things like gyro. I just couldn't get used to it. I just didn't like it, and I found it awkward to use. It just wasn't for me. And by this point, I'd already experienced a variety of technical issues too. And the Bluetooth chip for using this controller over Bluetooth wasn't working anymore, and the built-in Bluetooth functionality on this controller also started to fail, and the buttons got a little bit sticky over time, and a couple of more minor issues. At this point, I had a better understanding of why people liked it so much, but I just wasn't that on board with it. And from the release of that video, I learned a lot about why people liked it so much when I couldn't. I learned that there is a massive potential in a controller like this, a lot of which Valve did make possible, though it was essentially up to the community in order to make this controller as good as it could possibly be, and for everybody on it to eventually discover what it can really do through customizations. And the possibilities were near infinite with how many things you can actually do with this controller. It's pretty crazy. And it was capable of things that I just really, personally, I just didn't want to bother with it. I just wanted it to work. However, I'm still left with one question here, and that is this controller a niche product made for people who like adding specific customizations to their gaming experience, or is it actually a controller for pretty much everybody? And I'm just an idiot for not getting it and not getting used to it overall. Well, before we get to my conclusion, I did want to address that last year, Valve unfortunately went ahead and discontinued the Steam controller, but ended its cycle with a bang and selling it for literally $3 before completely disappearing from their store. However, there were a lot of people who picked it up and loved what they got in return. And I had to acknowledge that too. There are a lot of people who love this controller, and with pretty good reason too. So my conclusion is that this controller was never really for me. And from my perspective, this controller was completely awkward to hold and felt pretty cheap and lightweight. It required a lot of setup for many different games and desperately needed a second thumbstick and an actual D-pad. Again, all of this was just from my perspective, because every time I used it, I just wanted to go back to a traditional controller. I honestly did try to like it, but I just don't. And if you're like me, then you're likely going to agree with my stance here too. However, for those of you who do love customizing your gaming experience to the fullest, then it's absolutely worth giving it a try, because you will get a lot out of it than I ever could. That is for sure. And that doesn't mean that I won't feature it in future comparison videos, because I will continue to try and customize the experience for myself and hopefully learn to appreciate it a little bit more with time, because again, the possibilities are infinite with this controller, and I do want to expand my overall knowledge on it. However, it is official. This controller was never made for people like me, and I guess that's okay. And this time around, since you probably won't be able to buy a Steam controller anywhere like on Amazon, unless you go on eBay, I'm just going to be leaving affiliate links to other types of controllers that I think are pretty awesome, and a bunch of other ones that will work on PC down in the description. And if you end up using any of my links, I get a small commission that helps me run things just a little bit more smoothly around here. So if you were to use those, I would appreciate that quite a bit. And also, do make sure to follow me on Twitch, where I like to stream every Friday and Saturday, and I like to go for the most relaxing and soothing streams of all time, as I like to call them, as I just like to talk real low while playing some Final Fantasy XIV. So if that is something that interests you, and if you just wanted to stop by to ask me some questions, or even to make like some suggestions in regards to like customizing the Steam controller, I would love to have you down there and talk to you over there. So links to that below, as well as links to my Twitter and Instagram if you would like to follow me on those social media platforms too. But with that said, this has been Francisco from Tech Summit. Thank you so much for stopping by in this video, and I will be seeing all of you on the next one. Have a good one. Enjoy.